think we'll go ahead and get started. There is one individual that I know for sure is not coming. So she is actually on medical leave from her job. So she probably will miss the next few meetings with us. So we'll call the meeting to order. And first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, the minutes are in the packet from November 14th. A motion to...
I'll abstain because I was not here.
Oh.
Voting.
Okay.
I don't know if we need that or not, but
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes if there are no changes.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We're going to skip along as quickly as we can because both Mark and Deb need to leave early. So, and I would like, we'll adjourn and then do a little working session again. And I'd like to get through as much of that as possible before we lose a couple of people. So the next item on the agenda is Appraisal Consulting. And Brittany, I think, is going to talk to us.
Hello, everyone. So before you, I have some background for you on the fine art appraisals. I was able to contact 2 certified appraisers. They're both based in Minneapolis, and they're both able to give me kind of a, a rough estimate of what their services would be. I did have a more in-depth conversation with Mason Riddle today, and she was able to kind of give me a price or an estimate for the collection that needs to be appraised, which consists of about 64 pieces. For that fee, to do kind of an estimate for all 64, which she would like to do all at once if we move forward with this, would be between $8,000 to $9,000. I did let her know that the budget is it's a pause. You know, we need to work within our budget for this, and that we may need to break it up into groupings, and it may be over a period of time. But basically the starting rate to do a portion of the 64 pieces would be about $4,000.
And how many total pieces?
We have 64.
Okay.
And a lot of that is consistent with research. 34 of the 64 artists she is not familiar with, and they are not nationally recognized artists, so she would have to do a great deal of research to get a value for those.
And if I
have
remember...
one question.
Yes, go
Arlette.
ahead.
Just thinking about, I'm just reading the bullet point here that says artworks of value appraised for $3,000 or more would be added to the city's insurance coverage.
That's correct.
Would we then make a sort of a decision around which pieces probably aren't going to be appraised at that value and not do those ones?
We can. That can be the grouping, yeah. So my initial, when I initially reached out to her, that was really what I wanted to focus on, was to pick the ones that we knew or have a ballpark that are going to be valued at $3,000 or more. The issue that we're coming up with is that market values change, and although something is listed for $3,000 in 1975, it may have depreciated because it was overprinted. There, for example, like Les Cuba prints, they're not as valuable as they once were because they have been mass produced. So that's something that we would need to obviously get appraised.
Other questions?
I don't remember. What did we have in the budget for this?
$59.50.
$59.50.
are we just looking at one person, or did you ask for prices from more than one?
Right, I reached out, if you look at your sheet, I reached out to Miles Fitman
Oh, I see.
and then Mason Riddle. His prices are substantially more. He mainly deals with fine art, so Picassos, your Jackson Pollocks. That's what he appraises. Mason also does that work as well, but she's familiar with government. She's also been the former director of the Minneapolis Percentage for Art and Public Spaces program. So she's being a little bit more flexible with her pricing, and she's also very familiar with Fargo. So
She's from Minneapolis?
Mhm.
Where she is at?
And she also does the appraisals for the Plains Art Museum. So she's
Oh.
kind of familiar with the kind of artists that we have here, regional artists, and she's familiar with, you know, researching those.
Would we have to add like airfare or hotel meals and all that?
That would be included. So we would also have to do, it wouldn't be airfare, she'd drive, it's 4 hours away. So we'd have to do a hotel and any kind of expenses associated with that. She believes that she'd be able to do this in about a day, day and a half.
So
And that would be for all 64.
Would the travel expenses be over and beyond the 8 to 9 approximately?
It would probably be added to that, but it may, I mean, we might be able to work that into the budget.
Okay.
Do we have 5,900 in the budget?
Denise, if you can talk into the microphone.
Oh, sorry. $5,900 in the budget, but then, so how do we pay the rest of it?
Mhm. Good question.
Well, maybe though we need to look at, do we need to have all of them appraised? Because if it's not all of
Yeah.
them, then I think maybe our next question is how many of them should be appraised?
You may want to think about just doing a certain amount of appraisal for this coming year and then
Yeah.
make this an ongoing project for the next 2-3 years where you just
Yeah.
take a group.
Yeah.
That's what I would think. too.
So you said 32 were not as familiar, should have to do research.
34 of the
34?
64. Mhm.
So would we want to do the ones that are not, I mean, the ones that are more familiar and would have, the ones that you would know about the
That would
artists?
require less research.
Yeah.
Mhm. Could do that.
Yeah, that would be a good way to start too, it sounds like.
Would those be the ones that have the greatest value?
Honestly, I can't tell you.
Okay.
Some things, as you know, there's not a lot of paperwork for any of this. There's just what people believe that they are worth and have written down on paper. That doesn't mean that that's what they're worth.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to say.
Well, then I think I'm in agreement then, start with the ones. We need to talk to her first and see if that would be agreeable to her, or,
Mhm.
and then get another proposal for that, or how do we proceed?
Yeah, one question I would have is if it would only take her a day to do 64,
Uh-huh.
is this fee going to go down much? You know, if you've got to travel somewhere and spend the day, is taking it from 64 to 34 going to reduce the fee in half? I wouldn't imagine that it would.
I think, I think she'll spend a day here reviewing all 64 pieces and then go back to her office and spend a
Right.
couple weeks doing all the research.
Right.
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 So maybe a suggestion would be, she can get through all 64 in one day, and then maybe as she's reviewing these, she can make a determination around which ones should have further research, or like pick the top 30 or something like that.
Or perhaps we could authorize up to a certain dollar amount and
Yeah, I
have
was
her
gonna
stop
say-
right there.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
a suggestion that I can do is send her the tracker that I created that has all the artwork on that. I can send that to her and then also give her the budget that's agreed upon and then let her make that determination on which pieces she thinks are possibly the most valuable.
Okay.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
By
Denise.
giving her a budget amount, would we be giving her more money than she would normally? I'm just wondering if that just gives her a little more open to taking or to charging more because that's what our budget is, or does she have a certain amount per piece that she charges?
Her rate is by hour, so it depends on how many she can do per hour. She believes she can do between probably 4 to 6. It just depends on the artist, if it's a well-known artist, and how long it's going to take her to look through her databases to find anything on them, or an artist that's similar, and then look at the market value for auctions.
So would we want to give her a set amount of hours that we would pay for because it might not be $5,900 worth, or it might, would that be a better way to do it?
Are you suggesting, Brittany, that we just wait on final action here before we get additional information, or go ahead and set
I
some
would
of these?
suggest that you come up with what you want, what you're willing to spend for this, and then
Okay.
I can kind of work with her on how she allocates that.
Okay. So, however the commission wants to set it, dollar amount or hours, or perhaps, another option is just to have Brittany check in, or have her check in with Brittany after she's accomplished so much. And we say, yeah, go ahead and do another number of hours, just so we keep track of the costs on that end too. I mean, either way. Mark, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to make a motion.
Good, go right ahead.
I'd make a motion to have Mason come to Fargo and review all of the 64 pieces, and then put together a proposal to appraise all 64 after she's seen them. So there would be a one-day trip expense that she could give us a dollar figure for, or that it would be 8 hours, I presume, and plus whatever she wants for travel time. And then a proposal to expend, I think we would approve up to the $59.50 now, but
Minus a hotel and some meals.
We have a motion. Is there a second? And I don't know if
that was a little drawn
who's
out. Did you get all
capturing
that?
the minutes.
Okay, let me just make sure.
Okay, so what do you have for a motion there? Did you cut it off at a certain point?
Right. Sorry.
So I have the motion as, made the motion to have Mason come to Fargo, review all 64 pieces, and to put together a proposal to appraise all 64.
Okay, is there a second to that? And then we'll have discussion. A second first.
Second.
Okay, all right, Brittany, you were going to say something.
Okay, so if she were to do this, she would need a down payment for this. She would need a down payment to come here prior to doing any of the work.
How much of a down payment?
It would probably be, I would say, half.
Okay. Sounds reasonable. I mean,
Half what?
Yeah, half
the
of what?
5950 then?
Okay, so you want me to?
Or half of the 8,000?
Half of
What do you-
5950.
You know what, I think we're going to have to just share with her what our budget is and just trust her.
She'll do the overview and tell us how many
And
we
just-
can appraise
Okay.
for 5950.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Or which one she wants to do for 59.
Okay.
When would she be able to do this?
She would be able to start in January.
Okay.
And indicate to her that it's going to be a multi-year process.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Can we amend the motion then to include not to exceed 5950?
Which includes hotel and meals.
Denise, what are you saying? I can't hear you.
Which
Can't-
includes the mileage, hotel, and meals.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to spell that out, or we'll be ending.
So is there a friendly amendment for 5950 being the max? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks, Brittany, for all the information. All right, so the next item is the utility box wraps. And the reason that's on the agenda is we wrapped, I think, 7 total. And there's certainly a lot more utility boxes. There's also the option of starting to spread this out into the city. Whether we would want to discuss this in light of what kind of projects we want to do in this next year. And maybe that needs to, as we start digging down to the next level with our action plan, one of the items will be the new ideas column. And perhaps this discussion needs to go there. Or perhaps when we get to the March RFP, putting out the RFP for that first round of artist submissions, that might be a project that we would want to look at there. But we did want to bring it back just to let you know what the costs of the boxes were, the first one, the first project, the 7 of them. So you can see there, for a smaller box, it was $400 per box, and then the larger, $600. But in addition, then, were artist fees and administrative fees. So what are your thoughts? You want to delay it until we kind of start talking about projects? But let's keep it on the radar screen. Yeah, Mark?
On the last round of this, I remember it was approximately $5,000. And that was the cost of the graphics, the installation, a $250, I believe, per artist stipend or award. I don't remember there being an administration fee. Did the bid charge a percentage?
Good question. Anybody know?
I didn't think they did, but
They may not have, and we can find that out for sure, but if, the bid is someone that's local that kind of oversaw that installation, and there wouldn't necessarily be someone like that elsewhere in the city. So it may be that there could be additional fees for that, since there would not necessarily be another entity.
yeah.
I would like to talk about this later, because I would really like to see this as a project in a box that a neighborhood or a company or an individual could grab from the city and just go with it.
Yeah, we had even talked about a toolbox of some sorts, or a toolkit to be able to give to neighborhoods if they were interested in pursuing this. So that might be part of our new ideas, next projects discussion.
Yep.
Sound reasonable? Okay. publicarchives.org.
This is
Brittany.
just an update. I'm compiling the public art that the city owns into a database. It's a free database, and they also have a mobile app. And basically, it's for completed artworks from around the world. It allows for complete public artworks to be gathered into a central repository. So that's one of the options that we have here for the public when they come to Fargo. They can type in Fargo, and all these public artworks will show up, and then they can access that from their mobile phone as well.
I went on and looked, and there's 2. Both of them are in federal buildings. Yeah.
So I have compiled already 22. So I'm working on their spreadsheet, and then I'll also submit images with that, and then they'll upload it to their website and the mobile app.
Okay. Great. The artist training workshop. We have information in our packet about this. One of the, and I don't know if it was an action step or an objective, but it was in the master plan, was to start working with the artists to try to encourage them to expand their practice into the public arena, because there's certainly a lot of different aspects to be considered when an artist starts moving out into the public, especially with certain mediums. So there has been some discussion. I've had a couple of conversations with Brad Bachmeyer, who teaches at MSUM, and the Plains Art Museum about doing just this very thing. And then that same day, I think it was Megan, you sent over the email from Moorhead, and they are bringing in Forecast, which is the group that we had for our master plan, to do exactly that. And they have a grant that will cover the entire cost almost, except for $1,500 of it. So they're asking us to participate at the $750 level. It will be opened up to probably around 30 artists, and it probably will be something around a day and a half to 2-day kind of workshop. So, it certainly helps us achieve, I think, one of our objectives, and doing it with Moorhead would be great. They do want to hold this in Moorhead, because I'm assuming the granting organization is a Minnesota-based granting organization. So, but I'm assuming they'll open it up to artists in the region. So, a little discussion on that. Questions?
I have a question. So if we're equally funding it, that extra $1,500, would we have 50% from North Dakota, 50% from the Minnesota side, or is it just open up to the first 30 that apply, or?
Those kinds of details we don't know.
Okay.
But the Minnesota Granting Organization obviously is covering the large majority of it. I don't know if they will have any kind of restrictions. That's something that we can certainly check out. We certainly don't have to act on this tonight either, because the Moorhead Arts Council will not be meeting until after we've met again. So we do have another month. So we could certainly check on that, Denise, and then bring this back to the next meeting too.
It looks like the total cost on it's 8,000.
Yes, the total cost is
Total is 8,000, so we would be
very small part.
minor, yeah. And with only 30 participants, I guess that is something to consider.
Do you have any idea when this would happen?
Apparently Kim over in Moorhead was thinking somewhere maybe not till summer, late spring, summer, before it all gets arranged.
Is there a reason it's only open to 30, that kind of expense you'd want to have more involved? Do we have any idea about that?
I'm assuming you don't know either, Megan? No.
No, but I can see what information they have on that.
Nicole, you have
I was
something?
just going to say, if it's some of the forecast public art trainings I've seen, it's very intensive
Yeah.
and very one-on-one. And so it's kind of a teacher-student ratio kind of
Yep.
component.
It sounds like it's going to be like round table and
Yeah,
a
it's
lot of
very-
intensive work
Yeah.
to help people kind of almost develop a plan for how they can expand their practice, so.
Also, are we functioning under the assumption that the $8,000 covers the fees for the 30, one of the 30 that are, so it's free for whoever's attending? Do we have that confirmation?
That's a good question that I don't know. I assume so, but I will find that out for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean, so there's not a fee to?
Correct.
To attend? I thought it addressed that in here, but, yeah, we can clarify, make sure.
I have a question. If this came out of the budget for 2019, where
Yeah.
would that come from?
So Nicole, we were wondering if we could use $750 out of the 1,000 that's left over from 2018, except that if we don't approve it tonight, I suppose not, because it wouldn't be authorized.
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah, that might be a consideration for us. Otherwise, we'd have to take it out of projects or something.
Is that a use it or lose it thing?
I'm sorry?
Is that a use it or
Yes.
lose it? Oh, we might as well use it.
And I suggest we act.
You know,
Amen.
because I think that,
We only actually have about $700 left, and I don't know if you acted on any of the restoration for the frame at all.
The frame.
No, we're going to bring that next
Okay.
to January.
Okay.
so is it still timely to use the 2018 dollars yet, or?
I mean, I wouldn't rush just to use this for this, you know, I think there's plenty of art restoration and other things we could use for $700 besides just.
That we just have to determine tonight?
No.
That's what I meant by use it or lose it.
Yeah, no,
It
so,
doesn't expire after December 31st.
yeah.
Oh.
So, and I guess the long story is, it's part of the planning department's general budget, including, and so small purchases less than $1,000, which this would be. So if we wanted to buy hanging materials, for instance, at the city hall right now, we don't have any of the equipment to hang art, things like that. We can use that, or restoration, or it just goes back into the general fund. So it's not like we can't get it later.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we don't have to act on this
Right.
tonight? Okay, all right.
So to clarify, the 700 left or whatever goes away if we don't spend it after December 31st. I wasn't clear on what you were
Yes, it
saying.
goes to the
Yes
general fund. It goes to the general fund. What the city planning department does, and what all departments do, is we look through all our accounts and do our best to bring that balance down to zero as much as possible.
By
and-
December 31st.
By December 31st,
And you have things to spend it on
yes.
before then?
Okay. So we'll plan to, if Megan or somebody, if you can do a little more research, and we'll see it on the agenda next time again. Okay. No one from the public here. What we're going to do is,
Oh, discussion item outreach, is that
Well-
what we're doing?
This one, we're going to adjourn the meeting and do a workshop again like we did last time. So if there are no other action items to be taken, anything from the group, then a motion to approve would be good. I mean, a motion to adjourn would be good.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.